D23 is just a few days away. We are here for final predictions. What do we think is going to happen? And we're going to make it super exciting, do things a little bit different, and do a draft. Brandon, you and I are going to draft whatever rumors we think are the most likely, and whoever gets the most points will win something. We'll figure that out too.
A trip to D23. Just kidding. Man. That would be very cool. I have been thinking about, through all of our conversations about D23, like 1 year, we need to plan to go. I think it would be a lot of fun.
Oh, man. Yeah, if this podcast is around in 2 more years, who knows where we are, I would love that. I think that would just be so fun. That's always been a dream of mine, too, to actually be at a D23 in person. Well, for this year's D23, we have a blip from the Parks Panel, so I can tell you what they have shared with people in terms of what they are planning to do, and I think that'll serve as a good starting point for us to think about how we want to draft.
Absolutely.
The quote is, "Join host Neil Patrick Harris for a journey into the stories shaping the future of Disney experiences around the world. Building on the ambitious projects announced in 2024, this year's showcase will take fans deeper into the creative vision behind what's to come, hearing directly from the Imagineers, storytellers, artists, and innovators bringing these experiences to life. Inspired by the Carousel of Progress, Neil will guide the show and lead engaging conversations with the people creating the future of Disney experiences, complete with behind-the-scenes looks, special performances, exciting announcements, and a few surprises along the way." What are you feeling hearing that?
So, full disclosure, I work in like communications and PR. So many things that I just heard are like buzzwords, right? They're, the kind of way that you would describe this type of event. So the one thing that sticks out to me is the phrase "inspired by the Carousel of Progress," because to me that like lends itself to some kind of like past, present, future sort of thing. And they wouldn't have chosen that language specifically if that wasn't relevant to this whole thing. And it doesn't just mean they're going to give us an update on Carousel of Progress. They could do that, but that's not what that phrase really is referring to. So I would imagine that we're going to really get a close look at the announcements that we got in 2024. And then it does make me feel like we should tamper our expectations a little bit for any major brand new announcements. There could be a few, but that didn't lend me to think like some fifth gate is coming. Spoiler alert. So we'll see. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I get from that.
They really made a point to emphasize we're going to build on the ambitious projects of 2024. Yes. So I said in the end of the last podcast, I think that is still exciting just because we did have an amazing D23 Parks panel 2 years ago, and I am stoked to hear a little bit more about what is on the way. But Josh D'Amaro knows the assignment. He's been here before. He knows how fans feel when nothing gets announced. So I am going to hold out hope that we are still going to get something. It does sound like a lot of fanfare, and I have my mixed feelings about that because I don't know if you remember. I think we were lucky enough to be able to see a stream of the presentation last time, which we are not sure if we will or not this time. But there was just this really random, what felt like an hour period of us going between Deadpool showing up and I think it was an announcement about Fortnite and Disney.
Oh,
and
yeah, I remember that.
It really sucked the air out of the room for a second. Before we got back to the big announcement that everybody cared about, which was Villains Land. So I'm good with a little bit of fanfare. I think it's fun, especially for the people in the room. But I really hope that we're not just looking at a lot of fluff here. I'm going to believe that we're not.
Well, and I will say, too, if there are any major, like, brand new announcements, right, things that are just completely out of left field, they're not going to give us that in this description of the panel. So they're not going to, they say exciting new announcements and a few surprises. They're not going to say, and a brand new park that will tell you where it is soon. Like, it's just, they're going to keep that very mysterious and hard to predict. So we'll see what happens. But I do remember the Deadpool part of the last D23. And it's like, when you start rolling with announcements, you've got to keep going to keep people's energy level up. And that was a really like weird, I think I tuned out for a while. So, and you don't want people doing that.
Maybe it felt different in the room. And
Sure.
Admittedly, most people are not getting to see the streams. They've stopped doing that, which I think is a real bummer. I really wish that they would let the hype build. I
Absolutely.
understand how much people paid for their tickets to get to the expo. I think this is such a big deal in the Disney community. I feel like that's a mistake.
Yeah, and not that I'm advocating or promoting this, but there will probably be somebody that's got their phone that is, doing some kind of like half-hearted stream that we can barely see, but maybe we can hear. So like somebody's going to have something on the internet. I don't know what kind of quality it'll be, but it'll be there.
Yeah, we'd never advocate for that. But if it's there, send us a link.
But if it's there, I can't promise I won't watch it.
That's right. Okay, so let's get into the draft.
Okay.
And I am thinking, because we're going back to our last episode. If you didn't see it, we named every rumor that we think is out there or that people have talked about in the past as being a legitimate rumor, things that fans have been talking about for a long time. We have over 50 things on the list. That is the list that we are going to pull from today. If you have not seen that video, feel free to check it out and like and subscribe, because we are going to be doing reactions to what does get announced and a deep dive of many of the exciting projects that are coming up. Part of that episode that we did was a bingo card, where we are also giving people the chance to fill one out about what they think is the most likely. And the one thing I want us to kind of highlight is we are expecting a ton of new details. It would be boring if people were filling out bingo cards of just new details about this, new details about that. It would also be a boring draft if all we did was go back and forth on new details that were going to get announced. So Brandon and I are going to cap ourselves that we can only do that 2 times total. On our teams, we are going to be drafting 8 total rumors on each side. And I'll say, Brandon, whoever wins when we do another draft will get to pick whether they go first or second. How does that sound?
That seems fair.
Okay, great. For this first one, I'm going to let you choose. This will be a snake draft. So a snake draft will work where whoever goes first does not get picks 2 and 3.
Right.
It snakes around. So up to you. Do you want the first pick, or would you rather take picks 2 and 3?
I'll take first because I have a very strong one that I want to draft. So.
All right, I'll pass it to you then for the first pick of the draft.
Okay, and you said I can only pick 2 of the new details category, right?
Yes, and I thank you for reminding me. We do need to specify. Specific. Yeah, just like the bingo card, you need to specify, will it be new concept art? Will it be an opening month? Or, let's see, or will it be a ride name?
Okay. All right, so my first pick, knowing what we have heard from their description of the parks panel, is new details about the Encanto ride, and I will specifically say concept art for that. So I think it is one that was kind of like announced last time, and we got one concept art of the casita, but we got really no additional details of what this would be like. And this was one that people have had all kinds of ideas about. Is this a trackless ride? Is it an indoor, dark ride? What is involved in this Encanto ride? And we've also seen that, from some of these aerial photos that get leaked all the time, it looks like this is going vertical, like construction is ongoing for this particular attraction. So I would say that we will get new concept art for the Encanto ride, and I'll even take that a step further and say that I think we will get specific information about what type of ride this will be. So we will learn, how the ride system will work, who will be featured as far as characters go, but I do not think we will get an opening month just yet.
Well, you made the right choice by picking first, because that would have absolutely been taken by me first as well.
Yep. That's why I wanted to go first.
We're a year away from Tropical America's opening, and we know surprisingly little about what could presumably be a big e-ticket attraction.
Absolutely.
I feel like this has to be one of the first things, and there's some things on the list where I'm not super confident that we'll get brand new concept art, but maybe we'll get something. This is one of those, we need it desperately. And if they don't show us that, I would be truly shocked. I think it's one of the biggest no-brainers. I'll go ahead and piggyback off of you, because I just feel like it's a natural conversation place to go. I think knowing that Tropical Americas is so close that they're probably going to spend some time on not just Encanto, but the area. We're going to get more details about the Indiana Jones attraction.
Mhm.
I am on the fence about what to draft here because I could see them being a little vague on the concept art category. We're really close. I could really do myself in here, but I want to take the ride name for the Indiana
Okay.
Jones attraction. I feel as though not having that piece of information is making it very hard for people to differentiate how to feel about this compared to the Indiana Jones attraction that already exists. And
Sure.
I think it would be good for us to know. It doesn't necessarily require them giving a whole lot away. It's hard to say if this one is as far along as Encanto or not because it is being built over a previous attraction, being Dinosaur.
Everything's inside.
Yeah, they delayed the closure of Dinosaur to get it open. So that's just got me wondering about how close. I mean, presumably it has to at least be close enough for them to give us something. And it might be that we get all three. We get the opening month, we get the concept art, we get the ride name. But I'm feeling kind of the most confident about ride name. So I think, what do you think about that?
I think that's fair because and not to like steer you away from what your third pick might be, but I think the opening month is such a tricky thing because with any kind of construction, projects get delayed. Things just happen that maybe stifle progress, even for, 30 days, 60 days, whatever it may be. So even though we know it's next year, I could see like a season, summer 2027, fall 2027. But usually the month doesn't get announced until a few months before. So,
Yeah, they play that close to the vest as much as they can.
right, because you don't want to announce, hey, August 2nd of 2027 is when we're going to open this, Tropical America's land. And then you get to March of next year and realize, oh, we're not going to make that deadline. And now we have to delay it. People have already planned their vacations around this announced date.
Yeah, you're right. So I feel like that's good chance. Those are the two things we get. There is this third attraction, a little carousel that's being built where Triceratops Spin was. They might say a little something about it. I'm not confident about what that would be. I'm not going to touch it. So for my next pick, here's the tricky thing. I could take my other new detail because that's the low-hanging fruit of what we're looking at here. But if I do that, I am also giving you the chance to pick the very first thing off the board that is not a new detail. And I'm feeling very bullish on what I am expecting to be announced that is brand new at this D23. And I think I'm going to go ahead and take it. I think there's plenty of things I'm expecting in the new details category, so I may as well wait. And I want to take Rivers of Light replacement. So let me rephrase this. A new nighttime show for Disney's Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
And this is feeding off of the Tropical Americas discussion. We know that we now have this brand new land that's building this new capacity. It's not that far away. Disney has been experimenting with drone shows for Cruise Line, for Disney Springs. We feel as though this space lends itself perfectly for a drone show. If Animal Kingdom is trying to extend their hours a little bit, this is the time to do it. Like, if not now, when? They already tried it once. They kind of ended up pushing things early again. And capacity is always something that they really need to think about. You don't want to keep a park open if people aren't going to be there to warrant the money you're paying in attendance. But I think right now, even if they back out later, there's going to be people in Animal Kingdom late at night to ride these new attractions. They will be in the park. It's literally the land that is right next to there. I just feel like this is such an easy win at the right time that I would be almost surprised if it didn't get announced. So that's going to be my next pick.
I like that. I don't think I really had that one on my radar, but I don't think you're wrong. It makes so much sense. And, depending on what we get with Encanto, Indiana Jones, we have Pandora. Everest. There are many things to do at night when the sun goes down at Animal Kingdom. They just have never really given you another reason to stay that late. But this presumably is going to have more appeal, the Tropical Americas, than I think Dinoland did. And that might be a really controversial thing. But I think like Dinoland, I loved it. But people would go and ride Dinosaur and then skip everything else in the land. Most people skipped Primeval Whirl.
How dare you?
Then the Triceratops spin or Boneyard were, really devoted to children. So, and then the carnival type games, very cool, but I just don't think people spent time doing it. It was kind of a land that a lot of people walked past. So we'll see how Tropical Americas keeps people in the park.
I think us niche Disney fans that have been to the parks many times and have our obscure favorites would push back on the fact that we didn't like Dinoland or Dinorama, but in terms of it being a controversial take that it was not a beloved area, I don't think it's controversial. We all know that this was the Beastly Kingdom that didn't happen.
Sure.
The replacement of what Animal Kingdom was supposed to have in the first place. It feels like time. It feels outdated. Even the Dinoland lovers, like myself, I hope y'all know it's time. And Tropical Americas was such a smart way to go about this, in my opinion, to make a proper land that's themed around a region of the world and not a specific IP is one of my favorite choices they've made, and I want to see more of it as these lands start getting built.
And it fits so well, right? We have Asia, we have Africa, and then I could argue that Pandora even does sort of fit into that because Pandora is like a part of the world, right, that is not real. But to me, it like does work a little bit better. Dinoland was kind of that one that just didn't always feel like it matched. So I will also wait on my new details, my second new details pick, because I agree with you. I think pretty much all of them will happen. So it's hard to like pick, which one I think is most likely. The one that I'm going to take next is the non-rumored villains attraction.
Good choice. Good pick.
And so what we mean by non-rumored is I think we will get an announcement for a villains attraction that does not fit into the categories people have been chatting about online. So that would be like, this Emperor's New Groove coaster or a Maleficent dark ride or Maleficent water ride. I think we will get information about at least one of the attractions coming to Villains Land, and it will not be what people predict. It will be off the wall. Either it will match the concept art that we already got, which was, some kind of coaster, or it's going to be something that we all are just very surprised by.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think this is a smart choice. In fact, even though I'm not expecting a ton of information about Villains Land this time, I am expecting a little bit. And assuming the rumors we are hearing are wrong, which we believe them to be, I believe that Disney is chomping at the bit to announce one that is not one of those three that's out there.
Yeah.
Because Disney hates when these fake rumors come out. They've even made a point before to go on the parks blog and talk about unscrupulous sources who are making things up. Just to go way back to an example of when the Tiki Room or Country Bears was confirmed, or rumored, to be closed. I think, honestly, if they don't say something, it will make me start to wonder, maybe the new rumors are real, because that's how bad I think they would like to correct this misinformation.
Absolutely. And you think about it gets fans who maybe don't always, maybe fans is not necessarily the right phrase. There are many people who will look at these other sources and who will not really go verify with the Disney parks. They'll just see on their Facebook feed, right? Like, Disney confirms Emperor's New Groove coaster. And they're like, wow, cool. And then when it doesn't happen, they're like, well, Disney doesn't keep their promises. Well, Disney never made the promise. So, yeah.
You are so right. That's an excellent point about the casual audience who really isn't looking at this stuff really closely. Kind of a lesson in social media right now in general. Don't just assume that something is real when you see it, but people do. Especially if you don't follow this stuff closely.
Yeah. So
all right. So what's next then in terms of the next choice for you?
So sorry, I'm looking off to the side because I did make myself a whole list.
Oh, I love this. You came so prepared to class today.
Okay, so this is going to be more off the wall, but it's one that I really want to happen. So I'll just go ahead and pick it. I'm going to pick Haunted Mansion Bar.
Ooh, okay. Inspired choice. Talk to me.
I think that this seems like a slam dunk. And, maybe bar is like a choice phrase for it or a choice word. It will be some kind of dining, drinking establishment related to the Haunted Mansion. This is an attraction that I think so many people love. The Pirates of the Caribbean bar that we have is very successful, I believe. Trader Sam's was super successful. These types of things do bring a lot of people into them. And I think that Haunted Mansion lends itself to this. I also think that this, the argument that has been made for so long about how Walt didn't want alcohol in Magic Kingdom, that's out the window. It's over. It's been done. I might feel a certain type of way about it, but what is done is done. And so I think I just feel like this is something, we always get these like giant attraction announcements, but then we get a lot of smaller things, right? Bars or shops, or we'll get a little resort news, or we'll get, so this feels like something that would not require a ton of work on their part to build. And now they've, essentially opened up all of this space behind Haunted Mansion, and we know everything that is going behind there in terms of cars and Villains Land, but they probably have a little room for this too.
Yeah, it's been a smash hit on the cruise line. We have a design ready to go. This is another one. It feels like low-hanging fruit. The Pirates Bar works well. So I guess the one caveat that I have is the point that you yourself brought up of would they just do a Villains Bar at that point when it's that close?
They could.
I mean, I like your idea better. I think a Haunted Mansion Bar would be a hit for fans. It makes so much sense. You could do both. I mean, listen, we know that alcohol is just being sold more by the day. So I guess we'll see. I love this pick. I do think it makes a lot of sense for Disney. I don't necessarily have a lot of reason to believe it from like a rumor mill perspective. I haven't heard the whispers there as much right now, but I do think it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and I feel like it's always nice to pick something off the wall because I feel super confident that there will be an announcement that none of us thought about. They tend to do that every single time, like it just is off the wall and we're like, whoa, okay, didn't see that one. So for me, this is the one that might be that way.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to take a different approach to my next choice.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to use some rumor mill logic. And I'm thinking about the timing of this rumor emerging, some of the sources that have been talking about it. And I feel like a Space Mountain retheme is maybe a legitimate rumor that's out there.
Okay.
Now, I'm a little conflicted here because it very well might turn out that this is just a retrack and nothing more. If it is just a retrack, I would not expect them to make an announcement at D23. I think in that case, you may as well just wait. It's just a refurbishment. What do you have to announce? But in the event that there is credence to a proper retheme of Space Mountain, even if it, I imagine the track system is always going to stay the same. Like, they're not going to change the route or anything like that. If they did, that would be wild. But could they do double seats? Could they change the lighting? Could they try to change the story, the interior? I still do see a world where that happens. When the last D23 happened, the exact span of time where rumors were starting to emerge was the same time span of this one. And I feel like that is the kind of rumor that I am more likely to believe versus ones that come out way too early or way too late when people are trying to get clickbait attention. It also makes sense. We did an episode all about whether a Tomorrowland refresh has already quietly started without them properly announcing it. And we've got Buzz Lightyear coming. We now have Carousel of Progress. If this rumor is real, we're getting Space Mountain next. I mean, call it our first good Blue Sky breakdown take. I think that that's basically proof at that point. We're getting things one after the other. And then maybe finally after that, we start to see Speedway, Stitch, Monsters Inc. get their love. So I'm gonna go with that. I think it's a logical choice. It's not my heart choice, but I think it makes sense.
I like it. And actually, this could be, a stronger opinion of mine, but I would be a strong proponent of going to double seats. We know that is how the ride is built at Disneyland, and so it can be done. I just think that would be something that people would probably welcome. One of my least favorite parts actually about Space Mountain is that I don't get to ride next to my friend, and I have to sit in front of them or behind them. So I think this is, very possible. I'd be curious to know what level of changes we would see, but, I definitely think you're onto something there.
Okay, well, I'd like to see it. I am not going to be drafting confirmation of a full Tomorrowland refresh, which we did talk about as an option. I don't think they're ever going to say the phrase new Tomorrowland, personally. I think
people will be out with pitchforks.
Yeah, it's like they're just going to keep doing it this way. It's as much as many people are advocating for Tomorrowland upgrades. I do think there's love about the original concept, and I don't even think they need to say it. I think you really do just slowly chip away. We talked about this before, but you can't just refurb an entire land, shut the whole thing, and call it New Tomorrowland unless you're building in the back or something, like they did for New Fantasyland, right? And I just feel like it's not a necessary announcement. But if they literally said those words, I think we would be getting more than just Space Mountain. We might start to hear about Stitch and Speedway at this D23. And it just feels as though this is not going to be a big enough D23 for that kind of big overhaul.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So next, this is where I am having trouble. There's definitely some things that I would like to draft. I'll mention that even in terms of new details, Tomorrowland, Carousel of Progress is literally the theme of the event. The problem that I'm having is, we're not going to rename Carousel of Progress. We already just got a bunch of concept art. Are we going to get anything new? Are we going to get an opening month at this point when we didn't already? I just, I don't, even though I'm sure we'll get something, I'm not comfortable with any of the criteria we set.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to double up. I've got this podcaster instinct, having done it for many years before this one, and I like to go off the flow of the conversation, and I'm going to go with another retheme. Part of the reason I want to pick this is because I think we might have forgotten to talk about it on the last episode, even though it was on the list, and that is a Spaceship Earth retheme that was completely skipped over in the Epcot big change that was supposed to happen, and then we had COVID and all that. There were so many ideas out there that ended up not happening, but I feel like the Spaceship Earth retheme was necessary. I think they still want to do it. I, right now, am looking at attractions that need love as opposed to things that are brand new for this D23, especially because you mentioned Carousel of Progress theme. Are we going to go past, present, future? And could the past segment be a way to talk about, here's some things that we're doing to some of our older attractions that you love? Mm-hmm. And Spaceship Earth just feels like that thing, which really should have been announced, or it did get announced, really should have happened in Epcot that didn't. They already have plans. The Imagineers had started work on it. We really didn't get anything about Epcot on the last D23. So I think it's time. Let's give the Spaceship Earth retheme, give Spaceship Earth the retheme that it deserves.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on, I think we're going to get more from Epcot this time. Especially when we know we have all of these giant confirmations for the other 3 parks in Florida. So I really feel like it is time. So many of the Epcot announcements got squashed by COVID and didn't happen. So it's probably time to revisit those. And, this is many people's favorite park. And so they want to see it get some love too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have other ideas in mind, but I'm not even 100% sure, if I'm being honest with you, what Epcot will do. I have ideas, and maybe we'll talk about a couple of them. We talked about the rumors that are out there anyway, but there could be a surprise or two in store for Epcot, I think.
I think so too.
All right. Well, that was my round of picks. Back to you. Two
Okay.
more.
So I think we have so far, unless I'm missing something, every single one of our picks has been Walt Disney World related. And we know there will be announcements about other parks, whether that's Disneyland, Paris, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Tokyo, etc. There will be more announcements. The one that I'm going to pick is I'll go back to my new details, and I think that this one is probably just pretty easy to pick, and that's going to be the Lion King ride at Disneyland Paris. I predict we will get an opening month for the ride.
Oh, okay. Why are you thinking opening month?
Why am I thinking that? I feel like we have concept art that has already given us a lot of, ideas of what this will be. It looks very similar to Tiana's Bayou Adventure, so I think it's pretty safe to assume it will be a similar type ride. And I think that it just feels like this one has been in the works for a while. They've given a lot of previews or, conversations to it on the Disney Parks blog. And, Paris is not somewhere that you're necessarily going to be able to use a water ride 365 days a year. In fact, there will be several months a year where it's probably not usable, which is why it was maybe a bit of a surprise in the first place. I would think that they would want to get this opened by next summer, because if you don't do it by next summer, then you probably wait a whole other year for it. It snows in France in the winter. We've seen many pictures of Disneyland Paris in the snow. This won't be a fall or, late year announce or opening. So I could really see a world where it opens, May or June of 2027. And I think with all of the announcements that they've made, they probably are feeling a little bit of pressure about needing to get some of these things opened.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on something important, which is the secondary Disney Paris park has been renamed or is being rebranded into Disney Adventure World. That's a huge change. That is a proclamation of we are adding a bunch. We are going to give you a lot of information. I bet we get a lot of Disneyland Paris at this presentation. And that might be disappointing for the US Parks fans, but if you're in Europe, this is what you're here for, right? You are wanting to see, we are finally getting our version of a better California adventure park. The park that for a long time was a disappointment and is now getting better. And the Lion King ride is kind of the first big announcement that was kicking some of that off. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. And so I'll go ahead into my next pick because I want to pick something really bold as well. I think you're exactly right that we're probably going to hear more out of Epcot than we think. I believe we will get an announcement. I could be totally wrong on this, but I just want to pick something wild. I believe we will hear an announcement about a Coco attraction coming to the Mexico Pavilion.
Whoa! Okay. So this was one of the rumors on the list that, we kept because people have talked about it for a long time. I think maybe. Okay, I really need to hear your thought process because I feel like this is a change from the last time we talked about this. What's been percolating in your mind?
We're getting a Coco ride at California Adventure. The plans are there for this type of attraction. Three Caballeros is a great little attraction that does not bring a lot of people onto it every single day. Meanwhile, you have Frozen in Norway that attracts a ton of people. And I've been stewing on this more, but they probably would like to divert some of the traffic away from Frozen a little bit because of how busy it can get. You already have space for a ride in there. The one caveat has been this queue line that we keep talking about. How are they going to make the queue line work? I think that they can figure it out.
It's Disney.
It's Disney. I don't think they'll tear down the, giant, I'm blanking on the word. I don't think we'll tear down the temple or anything like that. But there's probably no reason why they couldn't, open up the backside of the temple and create a queue line that would be on the other side of the attraction, essentially. You know what I mean? There's probably ways to do that and make this queue line come out, onto what would be like the west side, I guess, of the Mexico Pavilion. You've got a little bit of backstage area there that could probably be used to do this. So it's probably very wild and off the wall, but I just feel like Epcot is going to get some love. We are not going to get another country pavilion announced. Sorry, that one is, I think, off the table. But there's probably no reason that they couldn't do this. And I would say the main argument I have is that Frozen is so popular and they probably want to bring some of the traffic away from that and kind of split it up into two places.
So I do think you're onto something in that I bet that Imagineers would love if we could have an attraction in every pavilion that's drawing traffic. World Showcase is probably one of the most popular things that Disney has, especially for adults. It draws more every year for the different festivals. It also has a ton of capacity. I mean, you look at all the parks, Epcot probably has the most, and World Showcase is a huge part of that. There is risk in it getting over-congested, but that's where queue lines actually help out. Because even though you're drawing in people, queue lines give people a place to stand. Part of my background is in operations research, so one day we can maybe do a deep dive on some capacity type stuff if that sounds interesting to people. I do think that Disney or not, there's a possibility that there are space constraints that we don't quite understand. I'm not confident enough to say they can just get around it necessarily, but the Coco ride, like you said, in DCA, it's already being planned. And one of the easiest things that Disney can do is replicate a new attraction in two places. So let's keep an eye out. It would fit really well there. We all love Coco. I mean, boy, maybe my favorite Pixar movie. I don't know if that's a hot take. I think it's so good.
I don't think it is. Coco's amazing.
I worry a little about overcapacity of the Mexico Pavilion itself, because the inside of it does have constraints. And
yes.
Is there a risk of inviting too much traffic? I think the way you would get around that is by trying to make the line go from outside instead of inside. And honestly, as I'm talking about that, long term, that's probably an awesome idea.
It would actually potentially help curb some of the traffic inside the temple.
Yeah. Dang, you're talking me into it. Okay. Well, who knows? That would be a pretty cool announcement. I bet we would get nothing more than it's happening, surprise. Well, let's stay in Epcot then.
Okay.
Because as much as I love the boldness, I love that you're talking me into it. I think it is absolutely wild to predict that before predicting that a new Figment attraction would be going into Journey into Imagination. This is the easiest thing in the world, is it not? Like, I've talked about it before. There was an Imagineering picture on Instagram of Figment walking into the door of Imagineering. He's so popular. There was the popcorn bucket that went viral. Everybody loves Figment right now, but they hate the attraction. Everybody wants Dreamfinder to come back. This does not have to be hard. You could just bring back the old version of Figment. Everybody would go wild. It would not be expensive. You would have to, sure, make the stuff from before, probably remake all of it, make it new again, but you don't have to change the ride system. You probably don't have to change the queue all that much. It already takes a lot of people. If it does not happen this D23, with Josh D'Amaro, notable Disney fan and longtime employee, who understands the fans so well, I want to make a separate video about why is this not happening, because it's time to start putting the conspiracies out there. Truly, why? Would it be because they're planning a gigantic Figment attraction that they feel like what's there now is not big enough? Is Figment that strong of a brand? Like, he's a super fan favorite. That's the beauty of it. Like, that Disney, all you have to do is update the attraction and do almost nothing with it. Make it better. I'm predicting this. I have an inkling in the back of my throat that for some reason it's not going to get announced. And yet, I would feel so stupid not picking it, so I have to.
I just picture you, like, if it doesn't get announced, you're going to fly to Florida and be marching around, like, the Inspire lot picketing and be like, justice for Figment or something.
Like the Toad-ins when the people were protesting the end of Mr. Toad in Walt Disney World?
Yes.
At least Figment still exists. Man, you're rehashing past trauma. What? Do you agree with me? Do you think this is getting announced this time?
I agree with you that it would be very easy to do and that it should be done. I don't know that I agree that it will get announced.
Why? Why? I mean, again, in my gut, I'm almost worried that you're right, but I don't understand why.
I don't know. I mean, I love Figment too. I don't want this to be misconstrued as me not loving it. I just don't know that it will get very hardcore Disney fans excited. I don't think it will get other people that excited.
So you think, okay, let's talk this through. So from a business perspective, you think that it's not worth the investment. Is that maybe? Is what you're, that could be an argument against it.
I feel like Disney, my feeling has always been that the things that they do are intended to bring new audiences to the parks. For the casual park goer who has gone once or twice in their life, they're trying to draw them back. The regular super Disney fans who, are very passionate, who are following D23 super closely, these fans are coming back either way. And I think that Disney knows that. Now, that's not me saying that they don't have to give those super fans things to get excited about too, because the super fans are the ones that kind of keep you going and keep you afloat all the time. But I just feel like, Figment announcement or not, I'll be going back to Disney at some point. You know what I mean? And I just think that this doesn't get new audiences that excited. If I have never been to Disney, but I see that they're creating a Disney Villains Land, or I see that they're creating this whole Tropical Americas land that features Encanto, which I love, I might be like, maybe I should consider planning a trip there. But if I see, there's a new Journey, it's not necessarily Journey into Imagination with Figment, but there's a new Figment-inspired ride. If I'm like a casual Disney fan, I'm like, who? That's the thing I fear, is that there are a lot of people who don't even know who Figment is.
Sure. I think you brought up a good point. It's a legitimate risk that with or without this change, the same amount of people are buying Figment merchandise and the same amount of people are riding the ride as they are right now.
Exactly.
And not that many people go in the building. And yet, I'm going to stand by this because I still think that it is a cheap change, and you do need these cheaper things that are going to get super fans excited.
Of course.
Maybe it is worth building something bigger, just a better attraction, because you could argue that just by nature of having an attraction that is great, like Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean are the perfect examples of these amazing attractions that never had an IP associated with them in the first place. If you make something great, people will come. So maybe, look, now blue sky breakdown, maybe there is a world where if they redo Figment, they would rather remake the whole thing and make it a ride that anybody would want to go on for the sake of actually drawing in the capacity that they want to.
Sure. Yeah.
So, all right, great talk. Maybe we don't need to do that separate episode, but tell me in the comments if you disagree. All right, Brandon, I'm going to stay in Epcot for my next pick here. And I am going to take a change to the Wonders of Life Pavilion. It's just sitting there. Again, I don't know what's going to go in there. I just feel like this is another thing. It was going to be the Play Pavilion. They decided that wasn't the right fit. We are now talking about how we expect a little bit more love for Epcot, if anything, right? If you're going to add new announcements, this is the place to do it, for Disney World specifically. I'm sure that they have ideas stewing around. There's never a point to just let capacity sit there. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy right there too. So people are going to be getting off the ride. They're going to be looking at something else to do. It's an easy way to direct people. I'm not even going to spend too much time speculating about what it is. I just think this is another cheap change. And like I said earlier, I'm looking at those for this D23 more so than I'm looking for brand new big projects.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that I feel very confident that we're going to get some love at Epcot for sure.
All right. Well,
I just think it makes a lot of sense.
Great. So I'm going to turn it back to you. This, I believe, for you is going to be picks 6 and 7.
Yeah, I believe I've done 5. I will preface this one by saying I am not the most well-versed in this topic, so I don't know how much context I'll provide. I believe we will get some kind of Disney Cruise Line announcement. We seem to get one every single time. there have been a lot of rumors swirling about either new destinations or new places that they'll be sailing from. There has actually been, from what I can tell, a lot of online chatter that the cruise line would resume sailing from New York. I don't know about that. Again, I've never been on a Disney cruise. It's something that maybe someday I'll get to do, but it is, just seeming likely that Disney has put so much money and effort into the cruise line. And it seems like every single D23 we get some kind of cruise related announcement. So it could be a new ship, it could be a new destination, or it could be a new, point of departure. So I don't know, not a super specific pick, but I think there's a cruise line announcement of some kind.
Sure. And to specify on the bingo card and the criteria, you're saying new cruise ship.
Yes, we'll go with that category.
Okay. So I can speak to this with a little bit more authority. I've been on Disney Cruise Line several times. I love the cruise line. I think it's one of my favorite Disney experiences. I am on the fence about a new ship announcement. I think it's very possible. The only thing that keeps me on the fence is that they announced 3 new ships on the very last D23 Expo. That's a lot of ships that are being actively built at once. So the question becomes, how quick is Disney trying to expand this fleet? It's very possible that the answer is super fast. These ships are huge moneymakers. And not to get too much into the ethics of this, but they're also able to pay the people on international waters a lot less. And that's a cruise line industry problem in general. But in any case, economically, people will pay so much money to go on a cruise. They're so profitable. Who knows? Like, Carnival has tons and tons, right? There's all these cruise companies that lay out ships all the time because they know how profitable they are. And maybe Disney is having that mentality of, there was a time where people would want to go on every cruise ship. There weren't that many. It was this prestigious experience. And maybe they are moving toward, let's just have a huge fleet that always gives people the opportunity wherever they are in the world to potentially get to experience one. So I think it's a good pick. I am not confident one way or the other, but they are doing so much with Cruise Line. They've made it very clear through announcements and their words that they plan on investing more and more in the cruise line. So I can absolutely see it.
Yeah, I think so. And, this is one of the things that even I kind of fail to keep in mind is whenever we have talked in the past about like Disney really needs to, step it up in the parks to kind of compete with the, folks down the road, so to speak, with Universal. I think I often forget like that the cruise line is a massive moneymaker and is something that, they are so heavily involved in that like this is a whole type of Disney experience that does not even, happen really on land. So like it, yes, they need to do things to keep up in the theme parks, but also they're killing it on the cruise lines. So
absolutely.
The next thing I'm going to pick is something for Disneyland. We have not picked anything for Disneyland, and yet we've talked so much about Disneyland Forward and what could potentially be happening there. We know that, they've gone through all of this effort to get the Anaheim, city leaders on board. Like there's been a lot of work going on out in California. And I just feel like we're going to get an announcement for them. I don't think it's going to be another theme park, but I am going to predict that Zootopia will be announced for Disneyland for California Adventure.
Wow. Okay.
I think Zootopia has been wildly popular overseas. It has done super well, and I feel like they've got the space to do it at California Adventure. It would, be I think something that maybe people aren't expecting, but there's a lot that they could do with it. And even though I think California Adventure is in a way better place than it used to be, I still feel like it needs more love. Like Pixar Pier was kind of like more of a refresh than it was something brand new. And then I don't know, although the attractions are good, I don't know that Avengers Campus and like Marvel expansions gets everyone excited.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
It gets a lot of people excited, but I don't know that it gets everybody excited. But I think Zootopia would get so many people pumped. And I just feel like, it's been so long since we've really gotten like some big, bold announcement for California. And I think it's time. So we'll say that Zootopia will be announced for California Adventure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, international hit. Already gone to Shanghai. There's some ride designs built. Honestly, I think one of the Zootopia rides in Shanghai, I'm only now thinking about this, may not even be that dissimilar from the Monsters, Inc. track that we already know is going to be going away. I
Yeah.
wonder if you can make 2 attractions if
Oh, I
you were
bet
to
you
actually
could.
keep that. Now, I'm alluding to the fact that that area has been presumed Avatar, and I'm going to acknowledge, actually, I thought that somebody had a really good comment from one of our last videos to point out that, we talked about how people don't get that jazzed about Avatar, even though it's very popular. They're like, yeah, but it is a multi-billion-dollar franchise. And that's true. It is ridiculously popular. In my mind, if Zootopia gets announced and we're not hearing anything about Avatar in this D23, that is low-key confirmation that that rumor is
It's not
true.
happening.
And it
Yeah.
is replacing Avatar. But I'm not confident enough because we do know how popular Avatar is, and surely Disney would like to use it when they can. Now, despite it being a multi-billion-dollar franchise, though, box office wise, what I would be curious to know, what are the merchandise sales like in Pandora? For as many people visit Pandora, I would be truly so fascinated to know, how much revenue does it bring into the merch sales? Do people, despite loving it, actually, maybe they buy the Banshees, you see those around, because that's cool, it's different. But in terms of t-shirts and other things, how's it going? I don't know. I don't see that many people around with
I
t-shirts
was
from
going to
Avatar.
say, I don't feel like I see that. And then, I agree, Avatar was so incredibly popular at the box office, but I could also make an argument that Zootopia 2 was one of the most successful Disney movies at the box office that they've ever made.
Yeah.
Smash
it.
It was a smash hit, and they've been doing really well lately at the box office with Toy Story 5, Inside Out 2, Zootopia 2. So, I just feel like the reason that Pandora was so, likely was because they already had the concept for it, right, in Florida. But I feel like now the same statement can be made. They have the concept for Zootopia. And I just feel like bringing that to the States would make a lot of sense when it's been so incredibly popular overseas. Whereas Pandora, it already exists in Florida. If you really want to go to it, you can. And I think you're right. This area, this particular Monsters Inc. attraction that is closing could be turned into a Zootopia type ride. So I just feel like it is something that could happen. So I'm going to pick it.
Sure, and I want to be clear, I'm not putting my thumb on the scale. I actually don't necessarily feel confident one way or the other that Avatar is happening or it's not. I'm just saying the fact that they haven't announced almost anything for a while is a little odd, and if we still don't get anything, I think it's especially odd. So just something to kind of look out for. Being a capacity driver on its own is still great. I mean, Animal Kingdom capacity went way up when Pandora showed up. So that alone can be a good enough reason to do something. But Pandora's an entire land. Right now, Disney has been very careful not to call the new Avatar ride a land. It's also been alluded this might be the Shanghai Pirates ride system, which people are ridiculously excited for. But I will say, again, that ride system should absolutely be used in the domestic parks, but it doesn't have to be Avatar. There's a lot of different ways that you could do it and still have it be awesome. So, leave that there. We'll see. I like the pick. I would not be confident enough to pick it myself. I feel like I'm playing it safe and you're being bold, but
I just feel because some of these are of course, we're going to get those, but
sure. Well, I haven't used my last new details pick, and I have 2 picks left. So I feel like I ought to do that because that is the obvious stuff. In terms of what I feel the most confident about, I think it's already been too late. We got to talk about the Monsters, Inc. ride. And we know that there is going to be Monstropolis because Disney literally confirmed it through a teaser post on Instagram where they alluded to, I think, the date of the D23 Parks Panel. The question is what? And I am willing to bet at this point that we get a ride name for the Monsters, Inc. roller coaster. Concept art, I feel like what we have is already pretty good with the door coaster, so I could see a world where they don't give us that. Opening month, maybe a little bit early, but we're going to be getting things for sure, and that feels like a very obvious way for it to happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know that we'll get an opening date because I still think Tropical Americas probably is the first thing to open, and then Monsters Inc. is probably next. So, but I think it's definitely something that we will get. They've already teased so much about Monstropolis on their social media, like you said. So, I'm kind of surprised that we both waited until the end, before that any of us picked that.
Yeah, I mean, we have the other new details to go with as well. And full disclosure, I am looking at all kinds of things on here that I think are very possible and likely. I only have one pick left. So I feel like it would be boring to not at least be bold for one thing. Give me Shanghai's second park.
Okay.
This was heavily rumored by Forbes. That's a big outlet to be reporting this. And they got it wrong. They said they thought it was going to get announced at the 10th anniversary celebration. It didn't, but it's been so heavily rumored. Why not now? If it's being built, if it's being planned, you know that this is going to be overall. Well, we don't know it, but it may be a light D23 announcement panel. And I know that not everybody cares as much about the international parks, but this feels like the type of big splash announcement that if they are able to announce it and ready, seems like as good of a time as any.
Yeah, I think definitely it makes a lot of sense. I also think something that I would like to point out that we didn't draft, because I have one more pick, but it won't be this. We know that Abu Dhabi is getting a park. I don't think they're going to discuss it.
Yeah,
I stand by that. I think that this was not a popular take when it got announced. Excuse me. And the way that world relations are right now and kind of the temperature, I think Disney will have enough sense now to read the room to say, like, even if we move forward with this project, we're not going to really talk about it a lot more right now. Especially it's such like a prominent thing like D23. There might be future like Parks blog articles about it, but I just don't think that they dedicate time to it. But I could definitely see Shanghai.
Sure. Well, what are you thinking then for your last pick?
So I've gone really bold, so boring. I'll end with a safer pick. Because you mentioned the Monsters Inc. ride, I think we will get more complete details about Monstropolis. And so, under expected announcement, I think we'll get a Monstropolis show announced for the Globe Theater. It just feels like they went out of their way on social media to tease Monstropolis more than any other section of any, park. So we're probably going to get a fair amount of details about it. It feels like this would be easy to pick. I don't know if it'll necessarily be Laugh Floor moving over. As part of this, maybe they announced that Laugh Floor is going to close and that Monsters Inc. will have this brand new revamped show in Hollywood Studios. I would also go ahead and pick that we'll get some more details on Harryhausen's, the restaurant. Like, I just feel like we will get a lot of information about this land in particular.
I think that's a great take, too. And it'll be interesting to see, is the show in the Globe Theater going to be Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor? Because if it is, that opens up an opportunity on the other side of Tomorrowland, which feels like an ambitious take for now. But if they're doing it, now would be the time to say it, if that were actually true.
It would be. I do wonder that, like, by announcing that and like the closure in Tomorrowland, if you don't announce what would replace that in Tomorrowland, you now just are creating another empty space.
Yeah.
Which is not great because I think people already feel that from where Stitch's Great Escape was. So like the whole entry to Tomorrowland essentially is empty until you get over to Buzz. So like, I don't know about that, but I think a show will be announced for sure.
Yeah, if you were feeling really ambitious, I could see somebody squinting and saying, I'm going to try to give people some false hope here. Okay, we've got a Space Mountain Rethink theme coming. Suddenly you get Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, which is a very popular show, I'll say. Moving over to Monstropolis, maybe it has better life there because it just makes more sense in the location. It becomes more popular. All of a sudden, all right, well, we've got Stitch and Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. Maybe Disney does say, oh, here's what's coming to the front of Tomorrowland. All of a sudden, you do have your new Tomorrowland announcement. Again, I don't feel like they are sending us signals that something that big is coming, but it would be cool. Mm-hmm. And you can understand why it makes sense. Who knows? Are there
Yeah.
anything that you were thinking about picking that you decided not to? Or just you didn't have space for on your team?
The one that I definitely think I would pick, but it was less interesting to me. And also, I had limitations on how many new details I could pick. I think we'll get more information about Lakeshore Lodge. I would imagine, we get either more concept art or an opening month for that. Feels likely that there will be some kind of resort hotel news. That always seems to be a thing that gets brought up.
Somewhere, international.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's not something that really got me jazzed, so I didn't pick it.
Yeah, I feel similarly where I think that we will get some kind of new attraction that has not been announced in Disneyland Paris for Disney Adventure World.
Mm-hmm.
I just think knowing that Adventure World is coming, I think we may just get a couple things that we weren't expecting there, which will be fairly fun. I was definitely considering picking details about the second Cars ride, but I'm not feeling 100% confident that they are going to follow through with it being just Cars in that area. So we'll see.
I have a feeling that there's going to be some tweaks to what happens at Magic Kingdom. I don't know if we'll learn all of that right now, but also I've just always had this impression that Cars and Villains Land were farther down the road in terms of opening dates. And I feel like Tropical Americas and or Monstropolis maybe could even be sooner. But I would think that those will be the first two lands to open in Florida.
I think that a new Toy Story attraction somewhere in the world would not be shocking right now. If I were to just pull a flyer out, now that Toy Story 5 has just been, again, gigantic box office smash hit, it's revitalized the franchise. It's brought a new audience in of younger kids. So don't be surprised if something like that comes up. I think Disney loves Toy Story. They're using it all the time. There was a tiny rumor about a Toy Story attraction instead of a small Cars ride before Piston Pete got announced. So not completely impossible. And then the only other thing that listen, people, I just want to give people a reason to be excited. Could there be a world where Josh D'Amaro gets up there and he says, hey, we know you have Disneyland Forward on the mind. Maybe he doesn't say the words third park, but he says, take a look at some vague concept art. And let us know what you think, audience. Just like they did many years ago. Maybe.
Possibly. It's definitely something that could happen. I feel like we probably won't get another theme park announcement in the US if it's going to happen until a lot of these already announced lands are completed.
I started seeing some social media buzz again about a fifth park potentially being announced at Walt Disney World this time, just to acknowledge it. I don't see anything credible that's leading me to believe that they would do that right now. And I gotta say, in the US parks, when this is all entirely owned by Disney, there's no split ownership. Why announce something that big right now, given the economic uncertainty? There's reason to be safe.
And I also think that not to go down this road very, very deeply, but Disney had a lot of political challenges in Florida for many years after COVID. I don't know that they are chomping at the bit when the political environment in Florida is still the exact same to build a fifth theme park. It's one thing to go in and revamp or add to the parks that already exist, but to start a brand new one is quite a big thing to do.
Yeah, now they've got this oversight district that's going to potentially cause problems. We know they want to do it eventually. It's in the plans. It's in the long-term plans. But that does not mean that it is anywhere close to happening necessarily. I think the reason that people are thinking about it is because of those long-term plans. It gets people excited. It's ooh, there's space and acknowledgement of another park.
Oh, yeah.
And look, if it happens, wow. I don't
that also
see it right
just now. Feels like something that I don't know that would just be this casual D23 announcement.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? I feel like it would get even more fanfare than that. We have some kind of, it didn't happen at the giant celebration that we most recently had. I don't know. It feels like something that in 2030 at D23, they do here's a look at the decade ahead and what's planned for the 2030s, and a theme park is coming.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can see 2030 being a big year.
Definitely.
All right. Well, this was super fun, Brandon.
Yeah.
Let me say, everybody, we love trying to do creative ideas and present this information in ways that you haven't heard it before. So if you made it this far and you're having fun, please like the video, help us grow, subscribe. We would like to be finding brand new ways to explore this awesome Disney Parks content that we all love. This is Blue Sky Breakdown, and we'll see you next time. Hitting the stop button.